Welcome to the Penny Bloom Podcast. Ain't another place that has got more bombast. Romp past your mom, dad's listening to Tomcats. Talking everything that make you sad. We don't want that. We're here to make you smile. Put your mind at ease. Peace, love, and bloom, and always praise Keanu Reeves. This what we about. This some weeding now. We'll talk until we can't no more, and then we peacing out. Alright, let's go. Penny Bloom Podcast. It's the Penny Bloom Podcast. Penny Bloom Podcast. It's the Penny Bloom Podcast. Penny Bloom Podcast. Penny Bloom Podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome in to the Penny Bloom Podcast. Today, we got a good little show for you. It's the Robertsons, baby. I'm back with my dad.
Yeah,
I'm Colton Robertson. I'm joined by Justin Robertson. What's up, Pops?
How you doing, buddy?
Oh, I'm good. I had a good weekend.
Yeah, likewise.
You got to head to Nashville.
I did. I went to Nashville this past week. It was going to be a quick trip anyway, Wednesday through Friday. Ended up with the hurricane situation. It was going to impact weather down in Nashville, so got a late flight out on Thursday. So came home Thursday instead of Friday. So, but yeah, it was good.
Nashville's a cool city.
It is. We didn't really. You know, my company's kind of interesting. They like to keep us all together. And what I mean by that is they like to literally control, like, what we do when we're not working, like, when we're in town. And so we don't really ever get to, like, go downtown.
Do stuff, yeah.
We stayed at, like, the owner's farmhouse, which was actually pretty cool. They had, like, a pickleball, like, they recently built a big old barn. They have, like, we played basketball. There was a pickleball court that they had painted on there.
Yeah.
They're country boys, so there was skeet shooting that went on. There was side by side rides going on through the wilderness. So no, it was cool. It's a bunch of country boys, so it was a pretty good time. I'm about as city as anybody there.
Yeah, right.
So, we talk in a little bit different language.
Yeah, right. I've never been skeet shooting. You said you have before, and you quite like it. Is that?
It is. It's fun. It's
cool?
Pretty cool. This was a little different than what I'd done before. But yeah, it's about as guns as I'm going to get.
Right.
It is sport. I feel like it is. Sport's fun.
Yeah.
You know, all those guys were really good. I mean, you could tell like that's kind of just
what
they probably
do.
have guns in their trucks,
yeah,
type of thing. And they were good, but they're all great guys. I mean, a lot of fun personalities. I have a great story that probably isn't appropriate for this podcast. So remind me to tell you about.
Yeah, I'll be sure to recall that. But we've got a good show.
Yeah.
We've got a good show. We're gonna do a little what have we been watching. We're gonna throw each other another recommendation after a nice little week off. For those who have been joining us, you know that I recommended My Father Andor. He recommended me The Offer. We watched it. We talked that through last week. So this week we got a whole week to watch whatever the fuck we wanted.
Yeah.
No homework this week. We've also got another edition of Divisional Dons, which I'm very excited. We'll pick a division from the NFL, and we'll pick our favorite player from each franchise in that division. Excited for that, and we will finish it off with another top 5 dead or alive.
Yeah.
Last week we did SNL, our favorite SNL cast members ever, and this week we're gonna switch it up a little bit, and I'm excited. This one's gonna be pro wrestlers, and I'm excited to get to that.
Yeah, brother.
But we will start with what we've been watching. What have you been watching lately?
Well, this week was kind of interesting. There was a show that, and I'd actually started watching it a few weeks ago. There was a show that I had noticed, a few years ago on Stars, but we don't have Stars. We never had it. So it was recently released on Netflix. It's Heels.
Yeah, Stephen Amell.
So don't think like high heels that one would wear. It's heels. Heels means a bad guy in wrestling.
Yeah.
So it's a wrestling kind of totally fictional wrestling show about a family that the father had passed and the sons inherited the kind of the local
Wrestling
territory,
ring? Yeah.
Wrestling arena with all that good stuff. But watched that, and then watched the series that was released on Netflix about Vince McMahon, the founder, owner of WWE, which is World Wrestling Entertainment. It was a documentary series that was super interesting. But But back to heels, I think I told you, it wasn't quite what I thought it might be. There was plenty of wrestling. It was just the production of it wasn't really. I think I told you that it seems like really in line with something your mom would like.
Yeah, it seemed like a
she doesn't
CW
need,
show.
Yeah, she doesn't need to be blown away with like production. There was good acting. You know, they were good. They were good. It was a good cast. The storyline was good. Would not recommend it, and here's why. I didn't do any research. I went in assuming that it was just the first 2 seasons of on Netflix, and that there was going to be a third. And somewhere along the way, I looked up the cast or something and found out with 3 episodes left that it had been canceled.
Right.
And the last episode, it ends on kind of a cliffhanger. So yeah, for entertainment value, it was entertaining.
But you're not going to get the fulfillment you want.
Yeah, the story's going nowhere.
Yeah, literally, it's
nowhere.
Never getting picked up.
They're never going to. So, but the Vince McMahon one was, dude. That dude is just a monster.
Yeah.
He is the.
So that's not it's not like a glorifying McMahon thing. Like it is a pretty.
I think he went into it thinking it was going to be.
Yeah.
And so they had started the production of this series before the most recent holy shit type allegations came out about how they treated one specific female. And so it started, and it even kind of says at the beginning, there's kind of a disclaimer saying, hey, these interviews with all of these WWE, some of them are superstars, but a lot of them are with Vince McMahon himself, were, prior to
this,
the most recent allegations. And then it kind of leads up to the most recent allegations, and then basically says, he didn't do an interview after that. His interviews ended. And he ends up, I think, I didn't really follow it that closely what was in the news, but he ended up resigning. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's basically out of the business.
Yeah. And
probably trying to figure out who to pay off next.
Yeah.
Or he's going to jail. And he's like 75. He's in the mid to upper 70s probably.
Yeah, for sure.
So I mean, if he goes to jail, he'll likely die there. But then again, a lot of rich people.
He's also really, really rich.
A lot of rich people find a way out of going to jail.
Yeah, exactly.
So.
No, that had caught my eye, and because we're doing the top 5 pro wrestlers later on. I grew up. I mean, obviously, I loved the WWE when I was younger. It's been a few years since I actively kept up with it, but I'll keep an eye on it. And every once in a while, you see a name that's familiar, and Vince McMahon's been in the news a lot for really, really negative shit. So that's one of those things where I was skeptical of it because I wasn't sure if it was kind of like and he's who brought us WWE, But I appreciate that it might be a little bit more of a
it is.
indictment.
It's a good mix. I mean, I think people. If you're like Vince McMahon or his family, you think it's a hit piece.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't. You could tell the intent was not. It was more of a fascination on who is this guy.
Yeah.
And
ultimately, when you come to the conclusion of who that guy is, it's just generally not positive.
It was a pretty fucked up preface. Like the first episode, they're talking about how they want to get to know who Vince McMahon is, and he literally says, "Well, I can't tell you all the stories." But, I mean, there's some stories I'd really like to tell you, but I'm not. I can't.
Damn.
And it's just kind of a foreshadowing, of – because we already know.
Yeah, we're here.
And so him saying that's creepy,
Mm-hmm.
But I thought overall it was pretty well done. It's pretty fascinating. I mean, yeah, you grew up watching wrestling. I mean, my young childhood or my childhood was when it was like the heyday, like when it exploded, when – WrestleMania became a thing when, and then, even into I remember my freshman year in college down at SMSU, Missouri State, we would watch Monday night, guys, like I lived in a dorm and we had a suite and we'd have 12 guys in there. We'd all watch Monday Night Raw or Monday Nitro and switch back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's always, the cultural impact has been pretty crazy. I haven't paid as much attention to it every bit of 10 years, and I don't know if that's because I'm just getting older or I don't know. I just haven't taken the time to watch as much.
Right.
But it's as strong as ever. I mean, that documentary talks about how viewership is at an all-time high. Merchandising is at an all-time high. Attendance. I mean, everything is just...
no, it's every bit as popular. Like, it's kind of re-entering a golden era is kind of my understanding.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, I don't keep up with it a lot, and I see all sorts of stuff all over Twitter about it. And that's
and advertising. Their advertising dollars are way up. It is a fun historical reference in terms of once WWE started and who they marketed to, and how that audience has. They went from Hulkamania, the All-American, hero. They marketed to kids.
Yeah.
And then
John Cena comes to rise as the main,
and that's kind of
WWE.
the second arc of marketing to kids, because in between you have like the Hulk Hogan. They rode that, and then Ted Turner started WCW, and they competed heavily with WWE, and almost like they rocked them a little bit because they beat them out in ratings. I think it was like 83 weeks in a row. And what they were marketing to is a totally different like 18 to 34, the demographic male.
Yeah.
And McMahon figured out, I can't market, like I've got to pivot here. And that's when, like, the quote unquote attitude era, where you have the Stone Colds, you have, The Rock was part of the and then they did it better than WCW did, put WCW out of business. But then it got out of control. Like, they were the way they were depicting women, treating women on screen. It was way over the top, and he realized that in order to around that same time they went public.
Yeah.
So they were traded on Wall Street, and so it's not the family business anymore.
Different game.
And I've got to attract advertisers, and I can't do that by treating women this way on screen, which are interesting parallels.
Yeah.
It was just fascinating in terms of how he would, in his character, he would blur fiction and nonfiction.
Right.
He basically was playing himself, or he became
himself,
that
the character that was the whole walkout and everything.
And he even references that, like, some guys have an issue. They start becoming their character, and he was totally not. He wasn't even reflecting on himself at all.
But you're completely unaware that you are one of those guys.
Correct. Yeah, totally unaware.
Man, that's interesting. I'll certainly have to watch, because I've been getting a little bit more into documentaries, and that's actually a little bit more of what I've been watching the last week.
Okay.
I've been watching some documentaries. Nothing, no docu-series. I've been watching not feature-length documentaries. They're like an hour to an hour and 15, something like that. But they're all about movies, typically. The production of movies. I watched.
Because you didn't you buy that one we talked about last week?
I actually haven't watched that.
You haven't watched
yet.
that one?
Yeah,
okay.
but I did watch I bought David Lynch, the Art Life. I told you that last week. But I did watch a Lynch documentary. It's called Lynch Oz. It's about David Lynch is notorious for not being a huge fan of movies, ironically. Like, not watching a lot of them. Like,
okay.
But he's got these ones that obviously he loves.
No-brainers, yeah.
The Wizard of Oz is, like, the main one.
Gotcha.
Like, there's so much Wizard of Oz all over what he does, and that's just an entire documentary about how much it bleeds through and how much he loves it and stuff like that. So that was a really, really interesting one. I watched one called The Taking, which was also really interesting. It's about Monument Valley out west, kind of the image of...
Monument Valley. I don't know that I'm
it's the
aware
old,
or familiar.
It's the image of the Old West. Like, John Ford, Stagecoach directed his movies. The pillars of rock that climb sky high, that's Monument Valley.
Okay.
It's all Monument Valley. It's all the same place, which is it's wild that you can. I'd known that, but I hadn't paid attention to that, and it was cool to watch them talk about how he would shoot movies that describe them going from state to state and crossing thousands of miles, but he shot it all in like a 2 to 3 mile radius, just changing the angles of the rocks. Like, that's just how he shot it, you know. And it also talked about how that land belonged to the Navajo tribe, and Hollywood came in and took it and was like, you can still live here if you work for us, though, you know. So that's why if you do watch old westerns and you're like, oh, there's Native American people in this, that's interesting. They're getting paid pennies on the dollar
Right.
to live on their land, essentially.
Basically, we're doing them a favor.
Yeah.
History like repeating itself over and over.
100%.
Yeah.
So like,
God,
it was kind of the bitter reality of what the American Western myth is.
Yeah.
Like the cowboys versus Indians, and like we're going out west and we're stopping the savages. Like, and it was cool
Animals.
to. Yeah, and it was kind of obviously, like, we know that's not true, but that myth permeates throughout culture in a way that we can't really separate from an American identity. Like, we still think of, like, someone said that when you look at that piece of land, you'll think of John Wayne, which is not who you should think of when you look at that land. And I think that's true, and it's kind of, it's just a bitter reality, because I've talked to you about this before. I like John Ford movies.
Yeah.
I like old westerns. Yeah. And it's just one of those things where every once in a while I'm like, man, this sucks.
Well, I know, and it's interesting in that. Okay, so when were those made? 40s?
Some
50s?
30s and 40s.
30s and 40s. Mm-hmm. Man, I thought we, meaning the white man,
white Americans,
had taken all their land by then.
Yeah.
So we're still out here, in the 30s and 40s, finding new ways, to take Native American land.
Like, man, this is a really broad open space.
Yeah, I mean, we did it with the railroad.
Uh-huh. We did it with where they tested where they did the Trinity Project.
Yeah.
J. Robert Oppenheimer was like, I really want to do this out in Arizona.
Yeah. It's really whatever serves us.
Yeah, I really want to do this out in Arizona. That's where I want to do it. And they're like, okay, well, there's like this is like significant land to these people, and he's like, well, we'll give it back to them when we're done.
Right.
After we've radiated it with
after
a
no one
bomb.
can live here.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
so
good.
like,
You guys can move back in, no problem. I wouldn't drink the water though.
No, exactly. So like it's just throughout history, it's one of those things where it's just like, oh my god,
right? Just another example of that.
Yeah, and so that was a really, really interesting and a really pretty documentary. I liked looking at it. It was because it's just an amalgamation of all sorts of movies and people talking over it about the historical significance of, like, when you look at this, you think of this, but that's not what you should, like, that's not good. Let's see. There was another that I watched. Oh yeah, it was a documentary on the making of Alien. Which
that's James Cameron?
James Cameron was Aliens,
okay.
The sequel to Alien.
Yeah.
Ridley Scott.
Ridley Scott.
Yeah.
Yes.
Gladiator and
of course
American Gangster and all that.
And
good
soon
stuff.
Gladiator.
And soon Gladiator 2.
Gladiator 2
Yeah.
or Gladiators. I don't know what they'll call
Gladiator
it.
2. Yeah.
I happen to be, speaking of documentaries, I was kind of scrolling through Netflix yesterday briefly, and I saw one that you might, since you kind of open it up to documentaries specifically around the movie industry, there's one about Gene Wilder that looked...
I feel like I remember hearing about
looked
that
interesting. I don't even know what year it's from. It might, I don't know that it's anything new.
Mm-hmm.
But he was just such a talented guy.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
did you ever watch Blazing Saddles?
Yeah.
I've never seen it. It's one I really need to watch.
Mel Brooks, I believe. Mm-hmm. Excuse me. Yeah, I have. It's been a while. It was kind of one of those movies that my generation, I can't speak for my entire generation, but like it was like something we did in high school.
Yeah.
Like you watched Blazing Saddles.
Yeah.
I don't, but it's funny. I'd love to get your take on it. I'd like to rewatch it, actually.
Well, I really want to watch it because I've seen a lot of conflicting takes over the years where, for years I saw Blazing Saddles couldn't get made today. Blazing Saddles couldn't get made today. It's, it's racist and it's a horror. But then I see people who are like, they're making fun of that genre of movie. Like they are absolutely...
They are.
It's a parody. It's Mel Brooks, So, like, that's why, like, I would really love to watch it. But just speaking about Gene Wilder, like, I would like to get a little bit more familiar with his filmography because I don't. I know I've watched him in something. I've never seen the original Charlie and the Chocolate Factory or Willy Wonka.
That. Excuse me. Sorry.
I've never seen any of those, actually. Not the Johnny Depp one, none of them.
I haven't seen any but the original with Gene Wilder. And when I think of Gene Wilder, that's that's
a defining image.
Oh, yeah. And he, as a kid, I would watch that, and now I see clips of it. I haven't watched that movie, and I can't even tell you how long. But I'm mesmerized by his performance.
Right.
Like when I was young, he was just another guy, and he was eccentric, and he was, he was just another part of the cast.
Right.
And then when I see clips of it now, it's just like, man, how talented was that guy?
Oh, he's incredible. Yeah. So like that was one of those things whenever like Wonka came out last year and Timothée Chalamet was playing him, and they were like, he doesn't have the whimsy. He doesn't have the whimsy for this the way Gene Wilder did. And like, who does?
Yeah.
That was kind of my take on it. But I speaking of Genes, I watched The Conversation with Gene Hackman. It's an interesting movie where he's like a sound.
Oh, so we're talking
70s. It's a 70s.
Oh,
film.
that far back. Okay.
Yeah. It's a Francis Ford Coppola movie because I was in anticipation of Megalopolis. So I went and saw that last night too. But I'm saving that for Friday's episode on the Dispatch, where I'll talk about it a little bit more. Teaser.
That's what we call it in the business.
Yeah, in the business. This Friday on the Penny Bloom Dispatch.
Yeah,
Francis Ford Coppola ranking and Megalopolis review.
Oh shit.
A lot to like. But yeah, The Conversation, really good movie if you've never watched it. Well worth your time. But
okay. Also we have football today.
We do have football today.
I know that wasn't necessarily on the schedule, but are there any? I know you do your picks.
I do. Yeah.
Are there any?
We are recording. Yeah, I guess this is an out of the ordinary. We are recording before Sunday football this week, not in the wake of Sunday football. So, I've got some. This week was tough. I don't have any that I'm super.
I know you normally you pick like straight up just winners, right?
Yeah, I don't do money lines or anything like that.
I know that a money line, like Broncos are at Jets +8.
Ooh.
That's a tempting one. I mean, I think 8's a lot. I don't know if the Jets are as good as last week's performance.
Right.
And then
the Jets are what are they 2-1 now?
Yeah,
they lost to the 49ers, who are good.
True.
So like,
and the Chargers, the Chiefs are going out to play in L.A. against the Chargers, and the Chargers are getting 7.5. And I love the Chiefs. Well, and Herbert's going to play, which is I don't understand that at all. Like, why not just sit that guy?
I wonder
out?
if that money line like active. That is what it is right now.
As of this of 20, 30 minutes ago.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's kind of wild. We always play the Chargers close.
We play everyone close.
That's
so,
true.
For us to win we'd have to win by 10.
Be
right?
far and away our biggest win of the season.
8 or more, I don't know.
Yeah, no, that isn't. This is not gambling advice. But
watch us just come out and smack the shit out of them. Though.
That'd be great. I would love that. It's a good thing that sports gambling's not legal in Missouri, because I'd be putting down money on stuff, and I don't need to do that.
Oh, it's coming.
Should be not long. We get to vote on it in November.
Yeah, it's gonna. I mean, we know it's gonna pass.
Vote no on Amendment 2.
They want that money, man, because we're giving all our money to Kansas and Illinois.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
Yeah, everybody in the two biggest metropolitan areas in Missouri.
Yeah,
one's going to Kansas, one's going to Illinois.
Yeah,
and
it's only a matter of time.
And I don't know what percent, but a large percent of that's supposed to go to the schools.
Yeah. Well, I've been seeing ads that are like,
It's funny because it's like support education.
Yeah, it's really misleading. Because I've seen an ad that's expressly like, actually, if you read the fucking amendment, there's no money going anywhere else. Like it's not supporting schools. Which like I can't remember the specific terminology, but it is funny the way that it's being framed and everything, because I don't know. Like I'm super cool with sports gambling.
Me too.
I don't think it's a problem.
Best,
I think it's better
actually.
for it being. I love it.
I love it.
It's in my veins.
I can do it legally now.
Yeah, right. No, but like I think it's good for things to be regulated, and but it is bizarre to see like ESPN embrace it the way they have.
And the major sports leagues themselves leaning
brought
into
to you
it.
by DraftKings. You
They're
know, like
everywhere.
it's like.
Yeah,
I get it. It'll be a while before we get to a place where it's like, because it's not like it'll literally kill you. It's not cigarettes, you know, like
Right.
it's not going to give you cancer or anything.
but you can lose everything.
You can lose everything. So like it is really interesting that like it feels like
have
I'm
that- if you
watching
have
an
that
advertisement
gene.
for cigarettes. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like it's like I don't think I've seen a commercial for cigarettes in my life. Like that's how long it's been
Right.
since those have been
The
allowed
good
on
old
TV.
days.
You know, but
Yeah.
like that's what's bizarre. Like it'd be like watching Grey's Anatomy, and they're like brought to you by Camel.
Right.
You know, like
Joe Cool.
yeah, exactly.
Whatever, the
yeah,
fucking Camel guy.
So like I'm cool with it because it's fun and it's as long as you're responsible about it.
It
but,
is. It's funny
It's
because
just like anything else. If you're irresponsible about it, it can fuck you up. you
yeah,
know?
your brother Quentin is probably the most responsible. Because it's funny. It's funny when I see guys like him that are frugal, but they also enjoy gambling.
Oh, yeah.
like he's extremely like he doesn't like having his He's 21 years old and he doesn't like having his bank account to go below X number of dollars.
Yeah.
It drives him crazy.
Yeah.
And so he was. Were you around when he was talking about his 11-leg parlay today?
No,
He's got an 11-leg parlay. He bet $1.40 to win 367, baby.
okay.
But
Yeah,
11 things have to go his way.
That's good. That's
And
the
it's
good
just-
stuff.
it's
That's the
great.
good stuff. You
But
know?
that's
I mean,
entertaining, though.
No, it is.
That's
It's
the whole-
exciting, you know, and like that's why like see parlays, low money parlays. That's fun.
Yeah.
That's the good stuff.
It's like, what if?
I'm never laying down my life savings on something.
No,
you know,
people are doing it.
no,
though.
but people do.
Yeah.
and that's So, you know, I guess we can breach. Oh wait, we do need to recommend each other something. That was the assignment today.
Yeah, sorry, God.
No, I was going to go straight into football after that. I
No,
was going to
yeah.
go with Divisional Dons, but me and Emily have been watching an Apple TV original show called Sunny. It's got Rashida Jones. She's the lead in it.
Oh, I like her.
It's really interesting. It's not the one I'm throwing out for you or anything,
Okay.
but that is the TV show I've been watching. I was talking about
Outside
the
of your documentaries,
Yeah. So,
okay. You enjoying that?
yeah, we've got one episode left. It just ended like earlier this month. Apple TV sucks at marketing. Like,
Yeah, they really don't do much of that. There's probably a lot. Like, I have to literally go on Apple TV to see
anything.
what's out.
Yeah. Well, there's a new show coming out here in a couple weeks. It's got Cate Blanchett as the lead.
Wow.
And it's directed by a great director named Alfonso Cuarón, who's done a lot of great movies. He did Children of Men. I don't know if you've seen that movie.
I have not, but I'm aware.
Really, really, that's a show coming out within the next couple weeks. It's a miniseries that's directed by a very acclaimed director with an absolute mega A-lister in Cate Blanchett. And this is probably the first time most people have fucking heard about it, is me talking about it.
Yeah, I hadn't
that's
heard about
crazy.
it. Well, just like the Clooney Brad Pitt movie.
Wolves. Yeah.
Wolves. I didn't know that was a thing.
Mm-hmm. Apple TV sucks at that, dude.
Yeah. And there's another one with like Matt Damon and Casey Affleck.
The Instigators. Yeah. No, the Apple TV generally, like, because they also, I appreciate that they're willing to produce big movies, you know, like they did Killers of the Flower Moon last year. And they distributed it. They didn't produce it, but and Napoleon, that was another Ridley Scott one.
I need to watch that.
You know, I appreciate that they're willing, but they don't give them physical releases. They're like, you have to watch it on Apple TV, which means eventually, whenever they're tired of having it and paying actors, it will not exist anymore, which sucks.
Right.
You know, like it's like I don't know. It's just, but regardless, Sunny is pretty entertaining. It's a pretty entertaining show. Mystery thriller sort of thing about a woman who travels to Japan and meets her husband, and her husband's into some shady shit that she doesn't know about. He dies, and it starts unraveling, and she's solving the mystery. Sort of. Sci-fi stuff. She's got like a little robot sidekick. It's cool.
Okay.
Yeah. The robot sidekick is Sunny.
The Sunny. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's a fun, entertaining show. But
Can I go back to Cate Blanchett for a second?
of course, you can always go back to
An
Cate
acclaimed, amazing actress. But every time I hear her name, can you give a guess?
Carte Blanche.
Carte Blanche.
Yeah.
I think of that from 22 Jump Street. Is it
Yeah.
22 or
Yeah.
21 Jump Street? Either way.
That's 22.
He
You
thought
got Carte
they-
Blanche. You got Cate Blanchett.
Yeah. when he'd been given
Yeah.
given him carte blanche to do whatever they wanted, and he's like, "Wait, I thought we had Kate Blanchett."
Yeah.
And he's like, Ice Cube's character is like, "What the fuck?
What the fuck? Schmidt fucked the captain's daughter." Yeah, no, that's some good shit.
So
I haven't watched 22 Jump Street in a long time.
So good, dude.
But yeah, so Sonny, that's what I've been watching.
Cool.
But recommendations wise, do you want to throw yours at me first, or
I will. There are several. At some point, I'm probably gonna, there's ones I think I would rather give you, but they're just longer.
Mm-hmm.
And
if it's interesting because I know you like long shows. You've watched a lot of the long shows I'd recommend.
Yeah.
A, but B, also I kind of like. I like the idea that you could finish it before we talk again.
Yeah.
I like that idea. So like most of the stuff I would recommend you is probably going to be pretty short.
Yeah. And that's not really necessarily in my wheelhouse. So I find myself going, okay, these would be like Barry, Peaky Blinders.
Yeah.
Those are all 4, 5, 6 seasons.
Yeah.
And there's several others that I thought of. And so then I'm like, well, I need to come up with something that is a little, 1, 2 seasons maybe. Mm-hmm. So with that, The Bear.
Yeah.
It's still, it's current. Second season just dropped. I haven't even finished the second season.
Right.
Started it, kind of got away from it, but that's my recommendation. It's
season 3 just dropped.
Oh, I'm sorry, season 3 did just drop.
Yeah.
Oh, is that too many then?
No, that's okay. They're 20 minutes, or 30 minutes. So like it's, if they're 3
season 3 did.
If they're 3 10-episode seasons, it's
nothing crazy, But I mean, even
it's like 5 1-hour episodes per season, which is nothing. I probably won't finish all 3 seasons by the time we talk. Next, but
I would say even if it's the first,
no, because I mean I'm glad you're giving this to me because it's one that I've wanted to watch.
I know
it's one
you
I
have.
needed to watch.
You need to.
Yeah, everybody talks about it. I've never seen it. And I know it's one of those ones. It's like Succession. I know a ridiculous amount about the show. I know a ridiculous amount about the show despite never having seen it because people talk about it.
Yeah.
And I used to be like, oh, spoilers, don't do that. Like, and I'm still like that with twists. Like, if it's like, oh, you're not going to believe this guy fucking died.
Come on.
I don't want that.
Could have gone without that.
But like romances and like this person ends up with this person or this person's, there's a little bit of a love triangle. Like, I'm okay with details as long as I don't know how they do it. You know, I like seeing how it's done.
For sure.
So The Bear, I'm glad you're throwing that at me because it is one that I absolutely need to watch.
Thank you, Chef. Yes, Chef. Thank you, Chef.
Yes, Chef. Because I have watched the first. I think I've watched the first couple episodes.
Yeah.
I've watched a little bit of it. It was just at a time when we were like, nah, this is a lot heavier than we thought it was going to be. So we're going to go ahead and set this
There's
down.
a specific episode in season 2 that is one of my favorite episodes of anything I can remember.
Yeah.
It's a Christmas episode.
Oh, I love that. Jamie Lee Curtis and
Jamie,
Bob Odenkirk, John Bernthal.
Yeah. It's and the other thing that pops cousin, like the two words I think of.
Bon Moss Bachrach.
Chef and cousin.
Great dude name. Bon Moss Bachrach. Yeah. Incredible. I also love Io Adebri, so I'm excited. And Jeremy Allen White, frankly, he's really, really good. The Bear.
That's your homework. Yeah.
Okay.
Like I said, I know
I'm ready to commit.
We've talked about it a few times. I know it's like one of those things you want. Like I need to. I need. So here you go.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So The Bear. That's my homework, and I'll talk about it a little bit next week. But your homework then.
Let's get it.
And this is one that I cannot believe I didn't think of last week. I was like racking my brain for something aside from Andor.
My interest is piqued.
Shogun.
You
got to watch Shogun.
It's only one season.
Only
right?
one season. It's going to be adapted.
Love that show.
Oh, I fucking love Shogun. It was so good. It's going to have a season 2 and 3.
All right, just tell me, how's it end? No, I'm just kidding.
It's an ending.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like it was originally conceptualized as a miniseries.
It concludes.
Season 1 is a full story.
Okay.
I'm nervous about future seasons because the first season's so good and it was conceptualized as a miniseries.
What
more
why
are we doing here?
Yeah, why are we doing this?
And it's clear they can do more.
Right.
So I'm excited, but like, it's based off a book. The book's really good. The book's done though, and we've seen that with Game of Thrones. What happens when you start going away from the book and stuff? And
boy,
yeah. But so Shogun, that's my homework for you. 1 season, 10 episodes, an hour each.
Okay.
It's so good though. I love Hiroyuki Sanada, and he is really, really good as the lead in that show. And I'm excited for you to watch that because that just won the most Emmys anything's ever won. By the way,
wow,
the most in a single season of television ever.
Holy shit!
18 won 18 Emmys.
My goodness. All right. Yeah.
Ah. So it's
what is it on?
Hulu.
Okay.
It was an FX, same as The Bear.
Okay.
It was same. They do
and
TV
and
right.
Snowfall.
Yes, and Snowfall. Yeah, they do some good TV.
That was another one
on
that came
FX.
to mind, but again, I think that's 5 seasons.
Yeah.
Or
No.
like
So like, there's another thing that I might be interested in doing, which is. Like, if you give me a more long-term recommendation, I can work on it in the background. And then, like, when I do finish it, then I can talk about it. So, like, maybe think about that over the next couple weeks. But, yeah.
Okay. Shogun is mine. The Bear for you.
Yeah. That's a good pairing.
Yeah.
I'm excited for that. But, all right. Then, with that, we can get into Divisional Dons. Don. What we have done the last couple weeks. In week 1, we did the AFC West.
Mm-hmm.
Last week we did the NFC North. So that leaves us with AFC North, AFC and NFC East, AFC and NFC South, and the NFC West. So that leaves us with 6 divisions left. I've randomly assigned each of them a number.
What's it going to be?
NFC East.
Oh, so we've got the Commanders, the Cowboys, the Eagles,
and the Giants. This is an interesting one because this is a division I've never really given a shit about.
I know, it's funny, and I don't know if that's because of geography, but man, I haven't either. And here's the funny part about it is I have never really given a fuck about that division. But so many people in this country.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the Cowboys are the biggest team in the
Plus,
NFL.
you got New York. You got huge markets. Philly, New York.
Yeah.
D.C.
Washington, D.C.
Yeah, those people,
Dallas.
Those people care about that
They
shit.
do.
And, Cowboys have, well, once upon a time, I think they still do have fans all over the country. Right?
Oh, for sure.
They're a brand.
They're still America's team by all accounts, They get a ton of primetime games.
They sure don't fucking win when it matters, though.
No, they don't. They don't at all. But, yeah, so maybe we start where it'll probably be toughest with the Commanders.
The first name that comes to mind is Will Compton.
Will Compton.
but I can't. That's funny. I didn't even really know who Will Compton was as a player.
Mm-hmm.
But he's a pretty funny media personality now.
Yeah.
Okay. I got mine.
Yeah.
Damn, that quick. I got it, baby.
Yeah. I mean, Clinton Portis came to mind.
Clinton Portis is there.
I really enjoyed him. There weren't a lot of...
I mean, Doug Williams, first African-American to start, I think. I mean, and they won that thing.
Yeah.
The Super Bowl. Joe Gibbs, I mean, this is before you were born. They were good for a while.
Alex Smith.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where it all ended.
Yeah. And he won't be my favorite of all time by any stretch, but yeah, there's one guy who I really, really love, and I love for a long time, and he's known for 2 teams.
Okay.
I don't think I can go with him for his other team, so I think I have to go with him here.
Okay, I like the thought. You can't. The other team. There's
just
no
a storied
doubter.
history, and so like there's probably another guy I'd go with.
Can we just also refer to them as the football team?
Yeah, football team's cool with me. The Washington football team.
That was just.
It's a much better name.
It's
a much better name. I wish they would have because like even like in Washington too. Like I don't know, something feels right about being in D.C. and just being called the football team. Like, that's cool. I like that. Cool. Yams. Sweet candy yams. Vernon Davis.
Vernon Davis.
Probably my favorite football team player ever.
Vernon Davis is good.
Yeah, I mean, he was more a 49er. 49er is what I remember him for mostly. But he did spend some time in Washington.
He was the one, I remember when I talked about Mike Singletary and how he was like, can't do it, can't coach him, won't coach him. That was Vernon Davis. He sent Vernon Davis to the locker room in the middle of the game. Yeah.
That's
Vernon
right.
Davis was a fucking stud, though.
Yeah. Played for the 49ers for like 10 years and finished his career with Washington. So, like, it's definitely... He was more a 49er, but there's just a lot more 49ers that I know I love than I mean, and Vernon Davis is probably one of my favorites there, but I think there's just a couple guys there that I would go over him. So I think Vernon Davis is my favorite Washington.
That's a good pick. Mine, I'm sure there's guys I'm not thinking of. Again, out of the, we talk about the NFC East being a division we just generally don't give a fuck about. That team in particular, I just never paid any bit of attention to. But this player,
Liddell Betts, Blue Springs High School.
No, I'm not gonna. Not your mom's ex-boyfriend.
Lore drop.
This player was well on his way to being an all-time great defensive player. He was already an All-Pro. He was going to be a Hall of Famer by all accounts.
Yeah.
Somebody broke into his fucking house.
Sean Taylor.
And killed him. Sean Taylor, baby.
Yeah, 21. He occurred to me.
I got to go Sean Taylor. Former U guy, Yeah. I mean, the guy was a freak athlete, made plays all over the field. And like I said, was going to be... We talked about, like, it's funny that, not funny, but what could have been, we were talking.
Oh, yeah, potentially doing a what could have, Sean Taylor's definitely up
Sean
there.
Taylor, and that's one that I wouldn't have thought of, because I always go to basketball when we think, like, what could have been about players, but man, what could have been? That dude was.
Oh, he was incredible. Yeah, and he was a guy who died when I was pretty young. I think I was 8 or 9 when he died. I remember when he died, though, because it was, and this is a bizarre little detail about that whole thing. It was the first time I knew you could spell Sean like that.
Okay.
I remember watching SportsCenter and being like, who's seen Taylor?
You were like, seen?
I was like, who's seen Taylor?
Who's seen this?
And you're like, no, Sean.
I know. And it totally makes sense. Like, why would you name it? Why would you do that?
Well, yeah, but like, regardless, like that. So that's the association I always have with Sean Taylor. It was the first time I realized you could spell Sean like that, which is, sad. I never got to watch football. Never got to watch football with him in it. Not really, and not knowing who he was or anything. So that's one of those guys who I really would have liked to watch play, and I just never got the chance to.
Yeah, he was so good. There was another. I'm old. They had a return guy. They had a dude that played like forever. I'll have to look it up and come back to it. Obviously, his name didn't come to mind because I can't think of his name.
Santana Moss.
No, Santana Moss.
Pierre Garçon.
Pierre Garçon was an Indianapolis guy.
Also
and finished his career there.
Also in Washington.
Yeah, in Washington.
I always liked Pierre Garçon. I always liked him for some reason.
I liked the way the name looked on his jersey.
Mm-hmm. With the little
the
fucking thing above the O.
Yeah.
Or was it below the C? I don't know.
Regardless. It may have been below the C.
But Sean Taylor, he was one of those guys who I always...
You probably heard a lot about.
Oh, I always heard a lot about him, but I never got to watch him really, and that's super sad because you're right about the what could have been. Real sad story there. But so Vernon Davis and Sean Taylor for Washington,
both solid.
Yeah, both solid choices. With that, what's next? Giants, Eagles, Cowboys. What are you feeling? You think? I feel like Cowboys and Eagles might be a little more fruitful for me.
Okay,
you want to head to the Giants? We'll head to New York.
You're going Eli Manning, aren't you?
No.
Plaxico Burress. He shot himself.
Yeah.
Guy did more jail time for shooting himself than some people do for murdering other people.
Yeah, no, it's insane.
Fucking crazy.
Plaxico Burress. I did like Plaxico Burress a lot.
I did too.
Tiki Barber. I liked Tiki Barber a lot.
I liked Tiki Barber more when he was playing.
Yeah, me too.
I don't care for him much as a personality or like whatever the fuck he
media
does.
guy. Yeah.
But I mean, that's Michael Strahan.
Yeah, we talked Strahan last week a little bit in relation to the sacks.
How he was given the sack record by that dickhead.
I know who
Favre.
your favorite Giant of all time is, though.
When you said sacks, is that what you think?
Yeah.
You think I'm going LT?
I'm fairly certain. I don't know.
You think I'm going? LT? I might be.
I'm like, there's not many guys that stand out from that franchise. Ironically enough, given how fucking historic it is and how old it is, it's just I feel like they've always been an interesting team, but it's only been recently that they've had standout dudes.
I mean, Odell Beckham Jr.
OBJ.
Like that made his career.
Yeah, Eli Manning, obviously. Remember Brandon Jacobs, the running back?
Yes,
I like Brandon Jacobs a lot.
Yeah,
he was a good running back for a lot of years. But I think my favorite, funny enough, because I never really gave him that much thought when he was in the league, but he played at a time when I was watching a lot of football.
Otis Anderson.
No.
Oh, yeah, that was a little before your time.
He played at a time I watched a lot of football, and I love defense. We've talked about that. I love good defensive players. Jason Pierre-Paul. I think that's probably my favorite Giant ever.
Jason Pierre-Paul. Did he lose the...
He was the guy who lost the fingers to fireworks.
Did he do it while he was there, though? Was that there? Or was that after he left?
I think he was in New York still. He was in New York for a really long time.
Yeah, he was. He was good.
He was good.
He's still... Well, I don't know if he's good. I can't say that.
Yeah,
he's still in the league, I guess I should say.
Yeah, I like Jason Pierre-Paul a lot.
He's had a long career. Because he was kind of the one coming up...
After Strahan.
Right after. Yeah, they overlapped a little bit. You could probably say, just because I'm going to... Somehow this is going to turn into me being a Michael Strahan hater.
Right.
You can actually... I'd go as far as to say that Jason Pierre-Paul is the reason he got that record is because, they had to pay so much attention. They had to pay so much attention to Pierre-Paul.
Yeah, he got drafted in 2010, so I don't know what year Strahan did that, but it was probably after that, right?
Sure it was. We're going to write the history however we want.
Yeah. No, I remember watching him and being enamored by how fucking dominant he was.
Yeah.
And I think that, he's obviously no Lawrence Taylor, but he was damn good at a time when I watched a lot of football.
Yes.
Yeah.
And with that, mine's Lawrence Taylor.
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember seeing clips of him talking about we're going to go out here like some packs of wild dogs and have us some fun. Mm-hmm. He was just crazy. He was allegedly, probably, likely on cocaine for a lot of the games.
A lot of dudes that played at that time in any sport probably were.
Yeah, yeah. When they say greenies, they're talking about coke. No, just kidding. Yeah, I mean, nothing really needs to be said. I mean, if you're listening to this and you don't know who Lawrence Taylor is, just look him up.
Yeah.
I recently got into, my sports memorabilia collecting, right, in recent years. And one of the things I wish I would have pulled the trigger on is he had and you could get them pretty readily, and for not crazy money, an full-size autograph Giants helmet that said L, and he would, he'd sign it, and then in quotes he'd put LT was a bad motherfucker.
Oh, that's cool.
I know,
that's cool.
And that's the one that I still look for. This was 2 years ago where you could get them.
Nowhere to be found.
I mean, I'm sure they're out there, but they're not on the auction place that I usually go to. And and you could, reasonably for what it was, and I wish I would have, because that's just an awesome inscription.
Well, and also, obviously the inscription's cool, but a full-size Giants helmet's pretty fucking cool. The Giants aesthetic generally over the years has been very consistent. New York kind of prides itself on being traditional, and they're not rebranding a lot. They are who they are, and in all sports, Knicks and Brooklyn's kind of an odd man
Yankees,
out there.
obviously.
Yankees.
Yeah.
And Giants, they've had that fucking logo for years. So I've always really liked the general aesthetic of the Giants too. So
he played when their helmet was actually the Giants in the big block letters. I don't know if you remember. Yeah. But both, that was really cool, and then just the NY, is
simple and
solid
and nice. Yeah, I like it. But
this is getting off the rails a little bit. Eli Hall of Famer or no? Is Eli first ballot Hall of Famer?
I mean,
there's been some debate recently because he's eligible.
Yeah, no.
You don't think so? Not first ballot.
Not first ballot. I think he's a Hall of Famer. I think he has to be. He beat Tom Brady in the Super Bowl twice, which I think is enough to get you there. Yeah. 2 Super Bowls as a starting quarterback is probably enough to get you there.
Should be.
And he wasn't a bad quarterback. You know, like it's not like he was just like fell into that. Obviously, he was a good quarterback. So like, I think he's a Hall of Famer. I don't think he's as sexy as a lot of first ballot Hall of Famers, which is why I don't think he'll be there.
His numbers aren't sexy. I defy anyone to find me a clip of Eli Manning looking excited to play football. His fucking demeanor. He always looked like he was either lost
or sad
or scared or sad or confused.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing good.
Never a smile on that
Nothing
man's
I
face.
want to see out of my quarterback. Nothing that inspires a late game win in the Super Bowl versus Tom Brady.
Yeah, no. So like, Eli Manning, Hall of Famer, not first ballot.
Okay, I would agree.
Eventually, he'll find his way there, just because you kind of have to. I think if you are a voting body that's deciding, you kind of just go, I don't think anybody's excited about it. You know, I don't think anybody's like, you gotta put Eli there.
Right.
You know, I think they're just kind of like, yeah, probably.
Sure. Yeah. And he's a Manning.
Yeah, he's a Manning, which helps. And he didn't end up winning more than Peyton, but he had it up on Peyton for a while.
He did, yeah. He did.
But wait, did he end up winning? No,
it was 2-2, wasn't it?
2-2, yeah, because he won one with the Broncos and the Colts. Yeah,
he got a junk one where he didn't really do shit, but they were just really good.
And then they got their fucking dick stomped by the Seahawks one year. But okay,
right.
Then Jason Pierre-Paul and Lawrence Taylor. We got a couple of edge rushers there, and we'll go to the Eagles.
Yeah, this one is rattle off some names for me. I mean, I'm having a hell of a time here.
Michael Vick.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I loved Michael Vick. You know, like that's I know the dog stuff. I care. I don't care.
Here's why I don't care. I don't care for similar reasons that Adrian Peterson used to switch on these kids.
Yeah.
And that sounds awful, but like that's what he that's what he knows.
Yeah.
And Mike Vick, like he grew up like that's what his family they would fight dogs. And I've got I worked like in my first of all, there's a lot of very famous athletes that own and fight dogs.
Oh yeah.
And that have traditionally. Like there was a dude that I worked with long ago. His name was Jeff Perkins. I'll never forget Jeff. It was when I worked down at Brand Smart Electronics for my uncle's business. And he would take me to dog fights.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he was probably 30, I was 19. And he knew like John Elway had dogs. It was an underground thing.
Yeah.
Sorry to get off on a tangent, but like
I just remember
the fighting dogs.
I remember the reception to it when I was in elementary school, and you'd have thought he fucking killed a guy. You know what I'm saying? And like
he went away.
He did for a while.
People do kill people and don't go away as long as he did for killing dogs.
Plaxico Burress situation. So like I remember.
Gee, I wonder what they have in common.
Yeah. So, because he played with Atlanta, went to jail, came back, played with Philly.
Yeah. Andy Reid gave him a shot.
Andy Reid did, and he did fucking nasty in Philly. He was good. So, like
Mike Vick
is a big one for me. Might be my favorite Eagle. Actually, I didn't think of him until we were Mike Vick was the first one that came to mind, and he might be a 2 franchise favorite for me.
I'm over here thinking now you got me moving to Atlanta going, all right, is there anybody I like better than Mike Vick? Because then I could take Mike Vick for Atlanta.
Yeah, right.
I've got a couple. Deshaun Jackson.
Deshaun Jackson was fun.
He was a player.
He was fun. Remember Brian Westbrook?
Oh, yes.
He was good for a long time. I liked him a lot.
T.O.
Terrell Owens did spend some time there.
Donovan McNabb
occurred to me.
Yeah. Dawkins. Wasn't there
Brian Dawkins?
Dawkins.
I picked him for my Broncos pick.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, I did. he was my favorite Bronco ever.
Yeah. He was there like for a cup of coffee at the end of his career.
He was barely there.
But he was an Eagle most of his career.
Yeah,
right?
100%.
That's the thing is there's got to be some defensive guys that, and I don't know why I got to have a defensive player. Oh, actually, I got it.
You got it.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead. Which?
Jason Kelsey.
Yeah.
Are you mad that I thought of it?
No, that's a tough one to not pick. Yeah,
And
Jason Kelsey rocks.
It's current, it's relevant.
Yeah, Jason
he
Kelsey's
was
cool as
fucking
fuck.
amazing.
I think this might be the second time we double up because we did with Junior Seau for the Chargers.
Yeah.
I think,
and I think it's valid if that's the case.
I think so too because I played center.
That's a good point.
And there were a few centers across the league that always struck me as fucking awesome. And I don't know how well this is aged. For some reason, something is occurring to me that perhaps I shouldn't like this guy as much as I do. Pouncey,
okay,
in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
I remember really, really liking Pouncey.
Those are all rumors.
I don't remember what the. I don't remember.
He was a Florida guy with Hernandez.
Yeah.
But so was Tim Tebow. So I mean,
that's true. So like it was Pouncey and Kelsey. I always like Jason Kelsey. So I would be down to double up on Jason Kelsey here for Philly because he's cool. He's cool.
He's such a dude.
Yeah, that's a man.
He's a lovable man.
Yeah.
And he's just I think. Obviously, having Travis Kelce as his brother, they did the podcast that we obviously compete directly against.
Yeah. Our numbers are definitely rivaling that. We're not. I mean, talks are out there for us to get paid $100 million.
Yeah, I mean, and for any potential sponsors that might be listening, so he became even more lovable and known because of that.
Yeah,
and the Super Bowl that we played. They played each other in, and
that there was no. The fucking kismet occurrence for the Kelceys is absolutely insane.
Yeah.
The fact that they had a documentary crew that followed them around the season, they ended up playing each other in the Super Bowl. The fact that the next year Travis Kelce ends up, they launch a podcast, it becomes huge. Travis Kelce's like, I'd like to hang out with Taylor Swift, and then he starts dating Taylor Swift. They become the most famous people alive.
Yeah.
Like, it's insane. Like Donna Kelsey's a fucking household name essentially.
Donna Kelce, yeah.
Which is
Mama Kels.
That's insane. So like I think it's cool that a dude who's just normal like Jason is as famous as he is.
I think yes. He's like the everyman. I love that he's not afraid. He'll cry. Mm-hmm. He's an emotional guy.
Oh yeah. Sensitive.
He's passionate. Mm-hmm. He loves hard.
His retirement announcement was fucking good, man. That was.
I mean, he's a football guy.
Yeah, he is.
He is he is definition of football guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'm very, very cool doubling up on Jason Kelsey there because it means that whenever we get to the NFC South,
so pissed if we forgot about him,
forgotten.
And we would have had to have gone back and done like, hey, we need to make.
Yeah. By the way,
last week or 2 weeks ago,
fucked that up bad.
Yeah,
Jason Kelsey's definitely an all timer. Yeah. Sorry if anybody can hear the things that happen above us.
Yeah.
We're in the sub basement today and. People hear everything in the house.
Things up in the kitchen. Football hasn't even started.
Actually, it has.
Has it?
It's 12:05 now.
Man, time really does fly.
It does fly.
God, I love it.
But yeah, so Jason Kelsey, I'm cool with that for the Eagles, and we can top it off with the Cowboys.
Put a bow on it.
Yeah, who's your favorite Cowboy?
I don't know, man. I mean, it'd be easy to say like an Emmitt Smith, Michael Irvin.
Troy Aikman,
but
Tony
no
Romo.
Fucking way. Tony Romo would be a close friend of mine's favorite because he's an idiot. Jeremy Dickstein is an idiot who would pick Tony Romo.
I know mine.
You got yours, huh?
Yeah, I do. I think that the Cowboys are an interesting franchise because I've been on and off in how much I've given a shit about them over the years. Because, there's something sexy about the whole thing. The Cowboys, like they are America's team.
Yeah.
Their aesthetic is really nice. I love everything. I love everything about their general vibe.
Yeah.
But I've swung back and forth and been like, oh yeah, I like them, and oh fuck them. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So like the guy who occurs to me as my favorite Cowboy ever is DeMarcus Ware. I I loved DeMarcus Ware.
That's actually a really, really good one.
The D end who was fucking tearing offensive lines up. I loved that. He was, I mean, same time as Tony Romo, for sure. And that
DeMarcus
era,
Ware is good. Yeah, I mean that's a solid pick.
like Des Bryant occurred to me. I liked Des Bryant when he was playing.
Des Bryant I forgot about.
Jason Witten, that's a good one.
Tight end. Jay Novacek before him.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you're familiar with Jay Novacek. He was a tight end. How about Herschel Walker, man?
Herschel Walker.
He was good.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm cheating because I'm looking at names.
I do that every week.
I literally couldn't think of many guys.
Again,
I don't really
franchise.
like any of these guys.
Yeah. I mean, Michael Irvin. That's a pretty. I like Michael Irvin. That's a good one. But mine's definitely DeMarcus Ware. I remember being like, he was just a fucking beast, and I loved watching him.
He was, and I'm gonna go. I'm gonna switch it up a little bit. Honorable mention, really quick for me, Darren Woodson. He was a safety. I think he played his whole career with the Cowboys. He was a really, really good player. I'm going to go, though, Daryl Moose Johnston.
Oh, right.
Okay? Because I think he was just basically the fullback for Emmitt Smith.
Yeah.
And so this is kind of...
the unsung hero.
Look, I'm really just punting on this because I'm going through names... Emmitt Smith, Troy Aikman.
I mean, there's huge names that I just never gave a shit about.
Me too. I'm sure Tony Dorsett. I'm sure a lot of people love Tony Dorsett.
Yeah.
I don't give a fuck about Tony Dorsett. I like CeeDee Lamb, but I mean, whatever. He's Tony Romo. No, I like Trayvon Diggs a lot. He's a cornerback for them.
I like Dak Prescott.
Dak's likable.
I mean, he's definitely not one of my favorites of all time.
Do anything for, none of these guys. Micah Parsons is pretty good.
Yeah, I like Micah Parsons.
Deion Sanders also played for the Cowboys, but I never liked Deion when he was playing. Like he's really. So I guess are we doing our favorite? Right? That's
favorite, not best or
not
anything.
Best, our favorite. I wasn't a big Deion fan as a player, so I'm going to stick with Daryl Moose Johnston.
Hell yeah!
For no fucking reason, everyone.
Moose,
just because he's a big dumb animal in the backfield.
I love that.
During their heyday.
Yeah.
Daryl Moose Johnston.
Daryl Moose Johnston for the favorite Cowboy ever. That's incredible.
I just don't, none of these guys do it.
No, I'm with you. DeMarcus Ware is literally the only Cowboy I could think of that even kind of excited.
Michael Irvin might be, maybe I'm a hater. Maybe he should be it because I do like Michael Irvin. I liked him when he played. I liked T.O. when he played. I like Michael Irvin. He went to the U. He also has the quote about playing in those cold games. When they played in those cold games, it was cold.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard that quote? Man, when we played in the cold
Speaking
games,
of
it was cold.
The Coke.
Yeah, so, okay. Michael Irvin.
Michael Irvin will be yours, not Daryl Moose Johnston.
Daryl Moose Johnston.
Top two.
1B. 1A, 1B.
I love it. Okay, so Michael Irvin and DeMarcus Ware with the honorable mention for Daryl Moose Johnston. And that concludes Divisional Dons for the week, and we can move to Top 5 Dead or Alive. It's time for some pro wrestling talk. We started the show with a little bit of it. Let's finish the show with a little bit of it. So, we did this last week with SNL. Who are guys that just missed the cut for you?
I mean, I would say Mick Foley barely missed.
Mick Foley, okay.
Or Cactus Jack.
Yeah, or any of the names he went by.
Love, yeah. He barely missed it. Ric Flair was close.
Didn't quite get there.
And let me say this. I'm doing this a little bit different than, like, for instance, I left Brett Favre off of my favorite Packers, right? Mm-hmm. With this list, I decided to maybe go with not who they turned out being, because all our heroes will let us down, right?
Right.
But how they made me feel
at the time.
I
like that.
I'm not going to. This is literally, at that moment, because, The Rock. I'm not a huge Rock fan now, but at the time,
I love The Rock. Yeah.
Nobody, he was electrifying on the mic, dude. So let me say that first. So Mick Foley, Ric Flair, who I love now, but at the time, he didn't really do a lot for me.
Ric Flair drip go woo on the beat.
Macho Man, Randy Savage, Bret the Hitman Hart, the best there was, best there is, best there ever will be.
Yeah.
Lex Luger, who was awful in front of a mic, but for some reason just as my child, and Roddy Piper.
Didn't make your top 5?
He did not.
Ooh, I love Roddy Piper.
The way he'd get so mad and throw fits.
Did you ever watch the movie They Live?
Yeah.
I love that movie, and he's the lead in it with Keith David. I love that movie. One of the best wrestler actor performances ever.
He was extremely
one of the
talented.
best wrestler actor movies for me, I should say. He's not particularly like fantastic in it, but he's playing Roddy Piper and he's good at it.
Nobody could bring heat, and for those at home, heat is any type of interest or attention that's drawn upon them when they're a heel, which is a bad guy in wrestling.
Yeah.
Nobody brought more heat than.
Yeah,
he was so good at bringing heat.
Yeah.
He could make. I mean, everybody hated him, and he could just do it so easily.
There was an interview he did with Bill Maher, where he was like, Bill Maher was like making fun of wrestling for being fake, and he was like, "Yeah, we decide the outcomes, and yet we decide but look at this fucking scar I have.
Yeah.
Owen Hart died, like shit. Like he's like It's dangerous, and I remember he just sunned Bill Maher on his own show, which I fucking love because I fucking hate
anytime
Bill
you
Maher.
can see that is outstanding.
It was just one of those. I loved that guy, but I never got to watch him, which was why he's not in my top 5 either.
Yeah, and part of why is he was the antagonist to
one of your favorites,
to one of my favorites at the time. So those are my close misses. What about you?
Speaking of antagonists to one of my favorites of all time, Undertaker.
Yeah,
the Undertaker's not.
He should be on my list.
Oh yeah, I mean, he's undoubtedly one of the best that ever did it. He's I loved
21-0 in WrestleMania until they decided to
Brock
get Brock
fucking
Lesnar.
I'll talk about that later.
Vince McMahon decided that the day of the event too. By the way, that's in that documentary. He's decided that day that he went up to him and said, "Hey, Taker, we're gonna
it's over today.
We're gonna put Brock over." Which means we're going to let him win.
Undertaker had said that's if there was a guy he was okay with losing it to, it was Brock Lesnar.
I don't get that at all.
I don't either.
But I respect the man if he says that.
Yeah, fuck it. Guys, I didn't really get to watch. I just missed Stone Cold. I never really got to watch Stone Cold, so he missed my top 5. Some of the notable ones, The Rock didn't make my top 5, even though because the Rock I got to watch. He was still The Rock, but wasn't The Rock.
Yeah.
The Rock, the way he was in the late 90s, early aughts, because that was when he faced like John Cena at WrestleMania, and
that was during that whole Attitude Era that we talked about earlier, when they were they were having a lot of fun.
Yeah,
saying
but
shit
whenever John Cena, like 2012, when he came back that first, I think it was the first time. It was like I remember being like, "Whoa, it's The Rock! This is fucking awesome!" But
he became a movie star.
Yeah,
so it's hard to. But he still gets into character pretty damn good.
Oh yeah,
even
when he does come back, he did a whole thing last year, where he was his character all the time. He was on Twitter tweeting like he was the Rock of the WWE, not the Rock that's trying to please everybody and
loves everyone.
He's good at that. He is really really good at that.
Good.
So the Rock is someone that I had to mention, but was never my favorite at the time. The Big Show.
It's the Big Show.
Well, it's the Big Show.
Big Show.
I always liked him, but it was never Triple H didn't quite make my top 5.
Yeah.
DX was my favorite though. I loved D-Generation X.
DX.
But, Triple H, I used to like him a lot. Just kind of, there are other guys that I remember more fondly. CM Punk.
Yeah,
he's probably the closest to my top 5.
Okay, I wondered if he was. He plays a character in that Heels show.
Oh, does he really?
Yeah,
I like him a
not
lot.
A big one, but
I like him a lot, and it's more. I think he went through a lot of phases in the WWE.
Yeah,
and it was really, really remember when he did the Straight Edge Society, and he they brought somebody out from the crowd, and it seemed like she just shown up at the event, and now she rides with them. I liked the whole premise, and I liked his whole personality. So he's done a lot of stuff, and I've liked him more since wrestling because of the general personality he is. He's a really positive dude, and I really, really appreciate that. Randy Orton didn't quite make my top 5.
Yeah.
Because he was always a heel to guys that I really did like. But he was always electric. He was always really, really good.
Really good.
The RKO is iconic. Then the last couple honorable mentions I wanted to throw out there, just because I really, really liked them when I was younger. R-Truth. Remember R-Truth?
R-Truth. Yeah.
It can't be my top 5, but I liked R-Truth a lot. And Mark Henry. I liked Mark Henry.
The strongman. World's strongest man.
Mark Henry.
Yeah.
I liked Mark Henry a lot. But yeah.
So was Mick Foley before your time?
Just a bit. Because, and that's what's interesting too, is the early aughts.
Well, one, you were born.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't get into it until I was 9, 10. So, so like, there's a big era where like, it was post-Attitude Era, but kind of this in-between state where John Cena was coming in and all these guys were coming in and I just didn't get to watch a lot of that. Yeah. So Mick Foley was a part of that. Stone Cold was a part of that. Obviously, he came in during the Attitude Era, but he stayed for a long time. JBL. I don't know if you remember JBL.
I do remember JBL.
Goldberg. Is that what his name was?
Yeah, Goldberg.
Yeah.
He originally was a WCW guy.
Never got to watch him. But like that was a guy who I always knew I was supposed to like. I never watched him though. So like those are it's an interesting, like, very specific era that I followed wrestling. It was a 4-year stretch from like 2009 to 2012. You know what I'm saying? And like those are where my top 5 come from.
And I think I know a few of them for sure.
Yeah. But yeah, we can go 5, 5, 4, 4, 3, 3, 2, 2, 1, 1.
5 for me is the Everyman. The American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. Dusty Rhodes, man. I would encourage you to catch some clips of him on the mic. Hard times, Daddy. We're talking about hard times.
Yeah.
And he's like almost a preacher.
Whenever
like the way he's talking about the guy down at the local car factory who, can't get a job, doesn't know where his next meal's coming from.
Yeah.
And, he was the man, dude.
Yeah.
Dusty Rhodes. And he didn't look like much. He's always just kind of a soft, he's never in shape.
Yeah.
Never, I guess, he's obviously in cardiovascular shape because he could wrestle for 30, 40 an hour at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dusty Rhodes is my 5.
Yeah, whenever I did watch wrestling, I was good about my history. Because I knew you liked it, and I knew that you had the wrestling figures from when you were younger, and I remember Junkyard Dog was one that I was always enamored with, and there were a bunch of guys who I played the WWE video games, and they brought in legends and stuff, and I remember playing with Dusty Rhodes and he did the
the elbow, the bionic elbow,
the bionic elbow. Like I remember, so like I know a lot of the guys, but I never got to watch a lot of the guys. You know what I'm saying? So like
him and Ric Flair were kind of. They were rivals for a long time. 80s, all through the 80s. They were big time rivals. Dusty Rhodes.
Dusty Rhodes. That's a good place to start. My 5. It's the only WWE wrestler I ever got to meet. It's
Chris Jericho.
Sorry,
I took it from you.
No, it's okay. Chris Jericho.
Raw is Jericho,
and part of that is because he's the only wrestler I ever got to meet. But I always did really, really like his personality. I think that he's a really interesting dude.
Yeah.
And he was always good on the microphone.
Great.
I loved him as a heel. He was one of the only guys who, when he was a heel, I actually liked it.
Yeah. And he was a really good wrestler.
Yeah. Like, deceivingly athletic. Like, he would do shit. You're like, a dude that looks like you should not be able to do stuff like that, I loved the walls of Jericho whenever he turned them around and bend their back, and the code breaker. Like, I loved all of his finishers and stuff, and that was always a big one for me. If you had, like, a cool finisher, it's like, you're my favorite.
Yeah.
The signature and the finisher, I always really dug that. But, Chris Jericho, I remember I really enjoyed him.
He left WCW to go to WWF or E, whatever you want to say, and left on really good terms. And it was around the time I recently saw a clip on I don't even know, it's the algorithm or something. I saw a video that suggested it about how he moved to WWE, and it was his dream, so even though he had good success at WCW, loved it, he couldn't say no to Vince McMahon. He couldn't say no to the opportunity to wrestle there.
Right.
Took it, and he said one day, it was when Y2K was about to happen.
Yeah.
And he saw this countdown, of days, hours, minutes, seconds.
Right.
And he's like, man, somebody should do that for the WWE. And then he was like, wait, I'm going to the WWE. I should use that.
Right.
So that's how his whole countdown, you remember how it would pop up on the screen?
Oh, yeah.
That's where it was born. And it showed the very first time he walked out and the ovation he got. And how he has his back to the whole crowd and he yells, "Raw is Jericho."
Yeah.
And it was just, I don't know, it was funny. Because I always found him very entertaining.
Oh, yeah.
Because he was funny, too. He could, he didn't take himself too seriously. It was almost like he knew some of the shit he said was, gonna get a laugh.
Oh, yeah. He was funny.
He was really funny.
Yeah. So he was just one of those guys who, whenever he was a heel, he was evil. It was like, oh, I fucking hate this guy, but I love that I hate this guy, you know? So, Chris Jericho had to be top 5 for me. I loved watching him.
I dig it. 4 for me is one that's been mentioned, Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Yeah.
He was I'm trying to remember, because him and The Rock came up around the same time. During that whole era of wrestling, there was such a blurred line on good guys and bad guys. Mm-hmm. It was almost like he was a bad guy that was super popular,
right?
And he wasn't a bad guy on an evil way. He was an asshole.
Yeah,
he was just a dick. And he'd had a long career. He was stunning Steve Austin. Mm-hmm. When he had hair and all this, right. and he had some surgeries, and I remember hearing an interview where he was talking about he needed to find a character. He was going to be out of the business, right. He had to come up with something. And his wife at the time was, I believe, British or from the UK or England, and she was complaining about her tea being stone cold. This tea is stone cold. And that's how he came. He was like Stone Cold Steve Austin.
That's hard.
And the whole Texas Rattlesnake. And
the glass breaking and him fucking walking. He's so fucking. He was cool.
And at the end of every fucking Raw, he would come out and beat the fuck out of somebody. Yeah. A lot of times it was awesome because it was Vince McMahon. And he'd throw up the double bird, and then he'd clap his hands, and they'd throw him a couple natural lights,
couple beers,
and he would just chug the natural, and most of it would end up on the floor on his clothes. But it was this
guy's a fucking guy.
It's just such dude shit. You know what I mean?
Stone Cold he was a legend for sure.
Stone Cold 4.
The Stone Cold Stunner, by the way.
Oh, God.
One of the obviously an influence on the RKO, by the way.
Yes.
And a sexier move than the RKO. I appreciate whenever the dudes who received the stun
would sell it.
Oh, whenever they'd flip backwards and shit.
The Rock would sell the hell
Rock
out
would
of
do the shit for that. I love whenever, because that's a big part of it. If you can sell the receiving of that, I love it. Yeah. But I'm happy with that because my 4, it's specific to the time I watched wrestling. My 4's Kofi Kingston.
Kofi Kingston. I knew he was on there, baby. Yeah, I knew Kofi was on there somewhere.
And I've got a really sentimental story for why I like Kofi Kingston. Because it's specifically the night that I was like, oh, I like wrestling. Yeah. It was Kofi Kingston versus Randy Orton at Madison Square Garden on Monday Night Raw. And me, you, Quentin, and Mom were all watching it in your room at the old house. Mm-hmm. And I remember, because it was at the end of the night, it went all, they were going all throughout the stands, and Kofi Kingston was beating his ass. It was his coming out party.
Yeah.
Everyone was like, oh my God, this guy is here, and he's fucking awesome. He's beating the shit out of Randy Orton. It was so much fun. And I was like, oh, I think I can like wrestling a lot.
Yeah.
You know? And so that's why Kofi Kingston, I'll always have a sentimental attachment to Kofi Kingston because he was fucking cool.
And then they put the belt on him eventually.
Yes, yeah.
And it was a huge deal because he was
because he was one of those guys who spent a lot of time being the United States champion and Intercontinental champion and stuff. So whenever he was a tag team champion for a while. Whenever he did breach that gap and he got to be the world champion, that's the good shit.
Big deal.
I loved it, and I loved his whole boom, 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 and the leg drop he would do. Yeah, he's another electric guy. He wasn't a big. I was never his talent on the mic was never like over the top or anything. He
Right.
wasn't Jericho, he wasn't The Rock, but like his athleticism and what he would do in the ring was really exciting. So
Yeah.
I liked Kofi Kingston a lot.
I dig it.
Yeah.
I knew he'd be there.
Yeah,
He's right in that range that you were talking about before we
Yeah.
got into it. Yeah. So number 3, the icon Sting.
Sting, okay, good choice.
Sting, because I mean, this dude just retired like a few years ago. He wrestled till he was 65.
Yeah, I remember. I watched a little bit of Sting.
Not that I promote that. Like I said, I haven't watched wrestling in a really long time, but I guess the most, when I was in it the most, from the time I was like, 8 to 20, Sting, he was one that just
Mainstay.
I loved. Yeah, he was a mainstay, and he was never his career was not defined by the WWF. He was a WCW guy. He did end up in the WWF, but he had already
Made his
cemented himself. And the longevity, his ability to change shticks, like he was like a beach body, bleach blonde, colorful paint on his face paint. Sting, that's who he originally was. And he was great, and I loved him. For that time, I loved it. And then his character evolved when he went through a big injury. He became the Crow, basically. Is what,
Yeah.
That was the whole. And he's an absolute icon. He's had huge rivalries with like Ric Flair. I mean, Ric Flair they admire each other a ton. Their career, spanned about the same length. I mean, Ric Flair a little bit longer, but
I remember one time when I was younger, he like descended from the rafters.
Yeah.
And it was like a guy wearing a Sting mask.
Yes.
And then
pretending to be
Sting, and then he took off the mask, and it was Sting's face paint, and it was still Sting, and it was super fucking funny. And he might not have been when he came down from the rafters. I think he might have been in the crowd, and like he would, and that's. He took it off, and it was him, and it was like, oh!
And that's the beauty of wrestling, right? Is like the pomp and circumstance and all the pageantry around it. Like when he first started appearing, like he'd been gone from wrestling for a while because he was dealing with this injury, and then they had to figure out a way to get him back involved. And
right?
Like he would just start appearing,
and
the camera, who's that? Who's that up there? Oh my God, what's going on up there? Who's that? And he would just be standing there, and it's like, well, that's fucking Sting. But then, what I mean? But wrestling,
that's
they're like,
Sting.
Who's that man? And all this stuff. And everybody knows
like,
this
is Sting's thing. This is what he does.
Yeah, I'm like, this is the new Sting. I don't know what we're doing. But yeah, and then it teased every week. It's like, when is he going to do something? Like, it was genius storytelling because he would just show up at the end and not even beat anybody up.
Right.
He would just be there, like, watching. And so you're just waiting. The anticipation
for Sting
builds
to
for
do
him to
something.
finally, take that bat out and beat the fuck out of somebody with it. And it ends up happening. But yeah, Sting, man. I mean, 3 all day. Top 3 for me. Easily.
Yeah. No, that's good because my 3. Now we're getting to the guys that. I liked Chris Jericho for a lot of reasons. I like Kofi Kingston for a lot of reasons. But the top 3, they're my fucking favorites.
Is there a Rey Mysterio in here anywhere?
No.
No.
3
okay.
is Batista, though.
Okay.
I don't have Rey Mysterio in my top 5.
Okay.
I did like Rey Mysterio a lot, though. Batista is an interesting one because I always really liked him when he was a wrestler. I thought he was really. I mean, like I loved the giant, heavyweight guys.
Yeah.
I always thought that they were the coolest.
He was a badass. Man.
Oh, he was fucking sick.
He was a huge man.
Oh, dude, the spear, the Batista bomb, everything. I loved everything he did. And he was a great actor. And he was really good at selling all this stuff.
Proved to be the case.
Yeah,
later,
I mean,
right?
so I've loved Batista a lot more since he's been a wrestler. So I'm doing a little bit of a different than what we did with SNL last week, where SNL we were like strictly their time on SNL.
Yeah.
This is he's at 3 because of a blend of how much I liked him as a wrestler and how much I like him after wrestling.
Yeah.
Because I think he is just an incredible actor. He is so good. Definitely the best WWE actor
Agreed.
that there is. And because it's interesting knowing he's turned out to be so good at that and watching some of the stuff he did. Like when him and Rey Mysterio were tag team partners and Batista turned heel and beat the shit out of Rey Mysterio. Yeah. There's a moment where he like looks at him. There's no microphone. Nobody can hear him except for like, whenever it's like faint, whenever they don't have microphones, you can hear them, but you can't hear them. And right. I like that stuff. And he looks at him and he goes, Ray, I'm so sorry. And he starts beating the fucking shit out of him. But he's acting the hell out of it. It looks like it's really tearing him up to beat the shit out of Rey Mysterio.
Of course.
So like, it's just, I always really appreciated how much of a beast he was. And he was, he dominated. And the Batista Bomb is an all-time finisher for me. Maybe my favorite wrestling move there is. Lifting them up and slamming them down. Like, that's just such a big,
he could just manhandle about anybody.
Oh, yeah. He was jacked. Absolutely jacked.
Yeah, he was a monster. He had to have weighed 300 pounds, right?
100%. He actually just did an interview recently. He slimmed down a lot.
Yeah, I saw somewhere for a role.
Yeah,
right?
and just because he wanted to.
Sure.
He's like, I've been over 300 pounds my entire adulthood.
With 8% body fat or something.
Yeah. So, and he's gotten slim to the point where people have been like, is he okay?
Is he okay?
Is he all
probably
right?
Like, actually, yeah. Now I'm technically at a healthy weight.
Yeah, he's like,
my BMI isn't 40.
He said, I'm 240 pounds.
Yeah.
And you're asking me if I'm okay. I'm 200. Like, I'm better than I've ever been, actually.
Right.
So it's cool to see him have evolved and how vulnerable he is in interviews about the experience. Like, because he went out just a few years back and he lost in his final match, like most people do.
Yeah.
They don't win their final match.
And a lot of times they're putting whoever they're against.
They go out
over.
on their back.
Yeah,
they're ushering them in.
Yep.
And they're the new guy. So like he was like, that was the dream. I didn't have a retirement tour. I didn't tell people it was going to be my last match. I knew it was going to be my last match, but I didn't tell people it was going to be my last match. And I retired after that. And he talked about how much he misses it. He's like, I loved my music. I loved coming out. I loved the electricity in the building, but I'm glad with how I went out. And I think that's such a cool, because a lot of guys don't do that. A lot of guys end up coming back. Most of them do.
Longer than they should.
Yeah, a lot. Undertaker fought like 3 years ago. He's like 70.
Yeah, he's had. There was somewhere. He's had like over 20 surgeries.
Yeah,
dude. Like he's not well.
Mm-mm.
And he even admits, like, if I could keep doing it, I would. My body. There's some days I wake up and I can't get out of bed.
I can't move. Yeah. No. So like
I'm 46. And they're like, I played a lot of pickleball and basketball, and this week, I'm sore as fuck.
Yeah,
and there's days like I'm like, oh man, I can get out of bed fine, but like I'm sore and I'm in pain or I'm stiff.
Yeah,
these fucking guys are like 65, 70 years old.
No, insane,
it's wild.
So that's why like Batista, there's a lot more that goes into why I like him. And if I'm being honest, he's probably my favorite guy from the WWE ever.
Yeah.
But weighing how much I liked him as a wrestler did come into play here, because I like him a lot more after than I did during. But I did like him during, so I am throwing him in the middle of my top 5.
Fair enough. My two, I prefer to call this my 1B.
Mm-hmm.
Because he is my absolute favorite when I was like a young adult, and it's The Rock.
Yeah.
And there's nothing that gives me more satisfaction for some reason than being early.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You knew.
Being early on somebody?
Yeah.
I was fucking way early on The Rock.
Yeah.
And I remember like, because Dick Stein, buddy of mine, one of my best friends, we lived together. We, hung out a lot. And I remember being like, this guy, and he was nobody. It was just, I was like, dude, the dude's once
so
he started,
Rocky Johnson or something.
Yeah. He wasn't Rocky Maivia. Because I'm like, this dude's a fucking clown.
Yeah.
Like it was not a good gimmick. But when he started with the Nation of Domination, and he started kind of showing a little bit, I was like, I don't know, man. And then he, like his mic skills, there are so many. Rudy Poo, Candy Ass, like you Rudy Poo, and like the fucking
Jabroni,
and how he would ask a question like, well,
it doesn't matter.
Yes. So how are you feeling today, Cole? It doesn't matter how you feel. You wouldn't even let him answer. So many one-liners.
Shut your bitch ass up.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorites.
Know your role and
shut
your
your
mouth. Yeah.
If you smell
what the rock is cooking.
Yeah, that's the good shit.
Yeah, and he was a stud in the ring, but probably more so like his. I don't know that I can think of any. I mean, Ric Flair was really good on the mic, which is kind of crazy that I weigh so much on that. I mean, he was really good in the ring. He won a lot of matches. He was huge, athletic.
The people's elbow.
Which what isn't it like?
No,
there's nothing great about that finisher.
I mean, it's the showmanship of it.
Yeah.
Like that's what's cool about it. And Rock Bottom, that's a good.
Rock Bottom's
finisher.
good. That's true. But he had great feuds with
Stone Cold,
Vince McMahon. I mean, everybody around that area. He was the Rock and Sock connection when he tag teamed with Mick Foley.
Yes, yeah.
Just that actually, those two together were magic.
Yeah.
It was comedy. I mean, it was pure comedy. But yeah, and so it's interesting that as the years have gone on, I think I've just gotten overwhelmed with Rockness.
Oh yeah, he's just so. I don't like him either. I don't like him anymore.
Nothing is that. Look, I try to be positive, and I don't need Rock inspiring me.
No,
you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing. It's like, all right, dude, just.
Stop.
Is that you? Who
Yeah.
are you
Yeah,
anymore?
no, I think he's completely.
Who is The Rock? Who is he?
He's a facade.
Yeah,
it's a whole.
Everything. Like I want to know the real guy, but so it's just.
Well, the real guy, by all accounts, fucking sucks. Everybody fucking hates him. There are very few people who have positive things to say.
Is that
about
true?
Dwayne
See, I didn't
Johnson.
even realize that.
Just generally, like somewhat because of what we're talking about. Like you think he's gonna be that guy, and then he's actually kind of a fucking asshole. Like he's just got a huge ego on him at this point. Because I mean, like he was the highest paid actor in Hollywood for like 6 years.
Yeah, which is overpaid because he's not that good of an actor.
He's actually not a good actor.
Yeah, I know.
He's really good for WWE.
He's a great wrestler. He's great on the mic.
The corny, over the top camp of it all that he would do for WWE and what WWE is like. That's the kind of acting he's good at. He's been the same guy in everything he's been in for years now.
100%.
Now, hopefully, he's about to be in a new movie that actually looks like it could be pretty good, and I'm hoping it's kind of a good turn for him.
We'll see.
Because it's by the same guy who directed Uncut Gems, and that got that role from Adam Sandler where it was like,
Sandler.
oh wait,
Sandler's
got
chops.
good, you know. So maybe there's something there, but
I don't know.
I don't have as much faith in that.
I just know that he is in terms of like. How the feelings I got, the entertainment I got.
Well, and I mentioned earlier when he came back in like 2011, 2012. I mean, that was fucking exciting because I'd heard of The Rock. Yeah. Obviously, I'd watched him in movies, and I remember you telling me like, he was a wrestler, and I was like, what? He was a wrestler? That's fucking cool. And then I'd go and watch like his old wrestling stuff, but it was like, well, he's been retired for so long. And then like he came back and it was like, oh shit, it's The Rock, you know? So like it was exciting. But yeah, he was always really, really good. A really, really talented wrestler. This is a little bit of the Eli Manning Hall of Fame question. What's your favorite Rock movie?
Oh, man.
It's a bleak slate.
Here's the thing. There's a lot of them I haven't even seen. But for some reason, I'm just going to say two. There's two. One I can't think of either of the names.
Gotcha.
One is the one with Sean William Scott where they're like chasing treasure of some sort. Do you know what I'm talking about? Do you know what I'm talking about? Sean William Scott?
I know Sean William Scott. Yeah. Because I'm like, Dwayne Johnson did a lot of stuff there for a while.
This is old. Like Sean William Scott doesn't do many movies anymore, so it probably would have been early.
I'm like
early 2000s.
The comedy he did with Sean William Scott that I know doesn't involve him chasing any treasure.
Maybe they're not chasing treasure. Maybe I just fucking made that up.
Southland Tales?
Nah.
Oh, that's one of my top two.
I don't even know what the fuck that is.
It's a weird movie, but it's the most interesting The Rock's ever been. He's got like a bunch of nervous tics, and it's like he's.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's actually pretty good in it.
And the other one I was going to think of was the one where he's plays quarterback. And
The Game Plan.
The Game Plan.
That was another one.
Yeah,
that's a really good one.
I did like him in The Mummy though. Like that's kind of what got his breakout. Is he The Mummy 2 or some shit like that?
Gridiron
Scorpion
Gang.
King.
Yeah.
Scorpion King.
Yeah, Scorpion King 2002, Long Shot 2001.
Keep going. What's the one with Sean William Scott, man?
Let's see. I mean, that's why I'm like, I know Sean William Scott was in that. Walking Tall.
I remember Walking Tall. It wasn't bad. Wasn't great.
Rundown.
That's
Sean William Scott. Yeah, that's probably the one.
That's it. The Rundown.
A tough, aspiring chef is hired to bring home a mobster son from the Amazon. That's
okay. Then he's the treasure. Sean William Scott's the treasure. He's supposed to bring him home,
but becomes involved in the fight against an impressive town operator and the search for a legendary treasure.
There you go. Look at the old man.
What a fucking insane premise. A tough, aspiring chef is hired to bring home a mobster son from the Amazon. But becomes involved with a fight against an oppressive town operator and the search for a legendary treasure.
There's a lot going on.
That's a lot going on.
Fuck yeah, there is.
Christopher Walken, Rosario Dawson. I need to watch this movie.
You've never seen it?
I've never seen it.
Oh, watch it.
Yeah, The Rundown. That's getting added to the watch list.
If you didn't take anything out of this little pod, there you go.
Yeah, there you go. The Rundown. That's getting added. That's hysterical.
All right, who's your two?
My two is the rated R superstar, Edge.
Edge, yeah. Solid
I love
pick,
Edge.
Dude.
You know, I was just a guy who, whenever I was younger, I remember he was one of those guys. I mentioned earlier that I watched wrestling from a very specific window of time. Uh-huh. He was before that.
He was. And
he got
after
it. Well, yes.
Yeah.
He got a knee injury and was gone for years. And I remember hearing about him all the time when I started watching WWE. They were like, well, you know, the Edge, he faced the Edge. And I'd be like, who the fuck is the Edge? You know, who's Edge? I want to know who Edge is.
Yeah.
And then Royal Rumble 2010, he enters the ring.
Shows up.
Yeah, like his theme music kicks on and everyone's like,
going,
oh my God,
yeah.
it's the Edge,
Yes.
you know? And I remember just being like, oh, I fucking like this guy. He like, spear. He's tackling everybody. He was so much fun to watch. He was a great personality. I loved the way he like looked like he was tweaking in the corner when he was about to spear somebody.
Everything's so over the top. Wrestling's so much fun.
It's fun for that reason. That's what makes it cool.
I need
to
start watching wrestling.
This makes me want to, you know. But I remember a bunch of gimmicks. Like I had the documentary about Edge and his career, like on DVD. I don't know if you remember that. Like,
yes,
you guys
I do.
bought that for me. I watched all. I remember the bit where, because like you're saying, over the topness. Like there's a bit where they like acted like he was having sex with a woman in the ring, and they got like walked in on, and they were like. Yeah. And they acted scared, like you're in the middle of a fucking wrestling ring in the arena, you know, like you know, there's people around. Like it's it's so funny,
I know. And we're all in on it.
Yeah, everybody's in on it, and I love the suspension of disbelief that comes with wrestling. So he was just a lot of fun, and I remember,
and he was good. Hey, he was good for a long time
wrestler.
too. Yeah,
yeah. And so like him and Batista, I remember like as far as like the heavyweights, I loved them. They were my dudes.
Remember the part of the storyline was his brother was Christian.
Yeah. They were a tag team when they were younger and stuff. Yeah, no, for sure. And yeah, he had a lot of fun rivalries over his career, and I just remember. I remember specifically that Royal Rumble just being like, "Oh, I'm gonna love this guy."
Yeah. And by all accounts, a pretty good dude.
It seems like it. And
got out at a time. You know, got out at a good time. He still has good health.
Good health, yeah.
Mental health too.
It was his knees, if I remember correctly, that were getting fucked up.
And he's got his shit together upstairs. Mm-hmm. Like you know.
Yeah, no. So that's why, like, I generally really enjoyed. He was like the rated R superstar, so he was definitely one of those guys who got into some of the more questionable shit when it came to the objectification of women.
Yeah,
But that was a little bit before I watched it. You know, like the Attitude Era. Was
sure.
Plausible
deniability. I get it.
No, but I mean, like. Don't get me wrong, the women were sexualized like crazy whenever I was younger. Like Kelly and Mickey James, I think was her name, and like there were a bunch of chick wrestlers who were just like they were hot.
Yeah,
I remember the Amazon Beth Phoenix and people like that. It's cool to see the way that's evolved quite a bit, because like with the rise of popularity in women's sports, WWE has really capitalized on that.
You could argue they were ahead of it a little bit. Mm-hmm. They really went the other
China
way and
in the late 90s
tried to legitimize their, it got to where, because they called them divas for a really long time.
Yes.
And they were just kind of eye candy. And then they decided to focus more like, hey, like, and a lot of that has to do with like Vince McMahon taking a lesser role and his daughter Stephanie McMahon
stepping up. Yeah,
because basically now Stephanie McMahon and Triple H run the WWE.
Yeah.
And it's because she pushed for that, which is great. Like Charlotte Flair, Ric Flair's daughter.
Yeah. No, so that's why I'm like, there's apparently like some of the coolest storylines in the WWE right now are on the women's side, which is just something you could not say when I was younger.
There's no way that was going to happen.
Yeah, it was just kind of like the Bella twins and it was like, look at them, they're hot,
right?
Watch them fight. And like that was kind of all it was,
and it was kind of like a cat fight.
Yeah,
it wasn't like wrestling. It was just like them pulling hair.
Yeah, and it was a bit much. And I'm glad it's getting more legitimate. Not to say that it ever didn't require talent or anything, but I appreciate that the WWE itself is starting to treat it with a little bit more seriousness.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Edge was definitely not a.
No. Yeah. He wasn't. He was part of. As part of the time too.
I feel like he got like married in the ring at one point. Like that was one thing he did.
To Lita.
To Lita, yeah.
Wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, that happens a lot. Sorry.
That's all right. It's a high pitched
squeal in our pipes somewhere.
Coming from the pipes in the sub basement here.
So whenever you hear that upstairs, that's what it is.
Okay.
Yeah, I noticed that on the podcast a lot. I'm like, damn, that's loud. But yeah, so Edge is 2. Who's your favorite wrestler of all time?
Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
And again, this is not for any reason other than the 8 to 11-year-old little Justin Robertson.
Yeah.
Who was saying his prayers, eating his vitamins, was a little Hulkamaniac.
Yeah. So you're saying it's not because he spoke at the Republican National Convention and brought on Donald Trump?
No, it is not. It's not that. It's not for his blatant use of the N-word on phone calls with the hard R and all that. No. He is my favorite wrestler of all time, because in that window of my life, wrestling and specifically Hulk Hogan gave me such happiness.
Yeah.
In that little Justin Robertson 8 to 11, he was I am a real American dude.
Yeah.
I mean, that song would come on. And I mean, wrestling wasn't back then, dude. Wrestling wasn't on every Monday. You had to wake up or you had to watch it on Saturday morning. And it was really the explosion. Vince McMahon, the old model was they'd have territories throughout the country. Different promoters would have different territories. Vince McMahon bought the WWF from his dad and decided, I'm going to fucking destroy. I'm not going to try to put them out of business, but if they go out of business, sorry. And he went and got all the talent from all the best territories. Around the same time, cable became a thing.
Right.
And so wrestling exploded on a national level because of WWF, Vince McMahon, and Hulk Hogan. And so it wasn't that readily available. I mean, but then all of a sudden, every month there would be Saturday night's main event instead of Saturday Night Live. And that was like a before pay-per-view. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, it was just a magical time. WrestleMania, I remember WrestleMania 1. Like, WrestleMania, the first one, was on closed circuit TV. And if people don't know what that is, you would buy a ticket to an arena to watch a big screen. That's how WrestleMania was sold.
That's pretty cool.
There was no pay-per-view even.
Yeah.
You just, like, we didn't do that, but like it came out later on video. I got to watch it. I got to watch WrestleMania. But just everything that it embodied. I mean, he was the ultimate babyface, which is why even as a 20-year-old, when he turned heel, it blew me the fuck away.
Right.
I could not believe that the biggest babyface, good guy, ever in the history of wrestling
was turning. Yeah.
Just turned.
Yeah.
Which is what was fucking... and then guess what? I became an NWO fan.
Then you were an NWO fan.
And the Wolfpack. I love fucking Scott Hall and Kevin Nash.
Yeah.
And those guys... It'd be a different conversation if we were talking about factions. Because then we'd be talking about the Four Horsemen maybe as the GOAT faction ever. Yeah. But we have the NWO, we have D-Generation X.
D-Generation X was probably my favorite. Yeah, there's, tag teams. There's a bunch of legendary tag teams and stuff. There's a whole
Road Warriors.
The Road Warriors, baby. I loved them.
Harlem Heat.
Yeah.
Booker T. Booker T. was a great singles wrestler. I mean, But
the Dudley brothers.
The Dudleys.
Yeah, the Dudleys.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. That was the
Hardy brothers.
That was Road Dogg Jesse James and Badass Billy Gunn, the New Age Outlaws.
Yeah.
But anyway, so Hulk Hogan again. I understand what a piece of shit he is. So that's why I'm doing this one a little bit different. I'm taking all that I'm going in the moment.
When you loved wrestling,
I loved him more than I ever loved anybody.
Yeah, right.
That's boy. If you take that clip out.
I loved Hulk Hogan more than I ever loved anybody. Thanks, Dad. No, but I get it. I get it.
Just more than any wrestler, that was the dude. I'm sure it has anything to do with my age and time.
Doing the same. I'm doing the same thing for my.
All right, so go roll.
When I was watching wrestling, we mentioned DX. The guy I loved more than anybody was Shawn Michaels, the Heartbreak Kid. I wondered
if he was going to be. I'm okay. I wondered.
I loved Shawn Michaels, and I remember because I caught.
Sexy boy.
I remember when he retired. I caught the end of his career.
Yeah.
That's when I watched Shawn Michaels. Because I remember the main storyline was that's why Undertaker didn't make my top 5. Because I fucking hated The Undertaker for beating Shawn Michaels. And I specifically hate The Undertaker for being okay with Brock Lesnar beating him if he wasn't going to let Shawn Michaels fucking beat him. That pissed me the fuck off. Because they had that legendary WrestleMania match, and it seemed like Shawn Michaels was like, I'm going to retire. That's enough. I can't do this anymore. I lost it. That was what everything was. And then he came back so that he could fight The Undertaker at WrestleMania. He did a whole thing, and he lost again. And I was like, you got to be fucking kidding me. That pissed me off so bad. But I loved DX, and that was whenever I started watching wrestling. I loved that whole personality. I loved the aesthetic, which looking back is a fucking horrendous aesthetic.
It is.
It's awful.
Certainly is.
It's awful.
And he's admittedly, I don't know how much you've watched of because there's really good shit on Dark Side of the Ring, which is a Vice series. There's just a lot of good interviews with him where he talks about he was a fucking mess. He was on something a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And he was one that was really pushing hard for this extreme polarizing type of behavior.
Yeah.
I mean, he from a creative standpoint, he was pushing
the boundaries. Yeah. No, and I mean that's what DX did. They were very, very big on that. And so I loved Shawn Michaels so much so that whenever he did lose to the Undertaker, I cried. I cried when he lost to the Undertaker. You know what I'm saying? I'm 12 years old,
shit.
Fuck, this is happening.
Oh my!
This ruined my entire April.
Oh my God, why is it happening?
So I loved that guy. I loved Sweet Chin Music.
Yeah,
that is one of
and
the
it's pretty vicious.
I mean,
he's
that's a
good
gnarly
at it.
kick.
Yeah,
that's a gnarly move. And I remember whenever he finished off. Was it Ric Flair?
I was going to say,
or Bret Hart.
It was Ric Flair. It was one of the best
Sweet Chin musics ever,
and one of the best endings to a match.
Yeah,
because
it
should have been his retirement.
I'm sorry.
That was he said he mouthed, "I'm sorry, I love you."
Yeah,
And he does love, like, there was a lot, like...
He trained him,
because
right?
Ric Flair has said he would... There's only a few guys he would lose to in his retirement match. Mm-hmm. And he was one of them. Because Ric Flair loved Shawn Michaels.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that whole... And think about the production of that. Like, they capture... They know it's coming. Oh, yeah. They zoom in on his
perfect.
face.
It's so good.
And then they pan back out, and he kicks him.
And he kicks the shit
only
out of
thing that ruins that is Ric Flair couldn't fucking stay retired. Mm-hmm. He should have. That should have been it.
Should be it. Yeah.
And he still drags his old ass out there and keeps fucking wrestling. They did a whole. That was a whole thing for him.
Yeah.
Triple H did that for him.
Yeah.
Triple H saved Ric Flair's career. Like he's talked about it.
Yeah.
And like built his confidence back up. Got him back in the ring. Got him going. Had the whole in the twilight of his career. Had a resurgence. All this shit. And then Ric Flair decided that was it, and that's how they were going to, send him on his way.
Right.
And it was a perfect ending, and Shawn Michaels had everything to do with it. It was beautiful.
It was perfect.
The only thing that ruined it was Ric Flair couldn't fucking stay retired.
Yeah.
No fuck.
Yeah, no. So that's Shawn Michaels. He was just always he was electric. He was fun,
His fucking theme music, too.
I'm such a sexy boy.
Sexy boy. I'm not your boy toy. I
and
do have
the fucking fireworks that would shoot out across the stage whenever he came out, and he'd do
that fucking
pose where he
did
that
pose.
Yeah, I loved it, man. And
the Heartbreak Kid.
I was a sucker for
HBK.
it. So HBK.
I saw him in that Vince McMahon doc, and I almost Googled this, and I'm glad I didn't, because you might know. Why is one of his eyes crossed now? Because it was not.
It actually, for a long time, it was. I'm trying to remember. I don't know why.
Towards the end of his career, he did not have a fucking Google eye, dude.
Yeah, let's see.
He was straight-eyed fucking...
Well, like, it's funny. I appreciate...
Are you Googling why is Shawn Michaels' eye crossed now? Like, when did it happen? It had to have... It just makes me think something happened in the ring that, like, I don't know why. I don't know why I think it's funny. But you just go your whole fucking career in life without having a Google eye, and then all of a sudden you have a Google eye.
Okay, it's from repeated head trauma.
Oh, that's not...
Yeah, from wrestling. Not that funny.
No. So it wasn't one... Like, he got kicked real hard?
No, it's been there since 2004. It's probably gotten worse.
It wasn't like Cousin Eddie where it got...
No.
Her eyes aren't crossed anymore. Yeah, well, falls down a well, eyes go cross, gets kicked by a mule, go back again.
Well, yeah, the last few years of Shawn Michaels' career saw him having a noticeable difference to his eyes. Michaels had a lazy eye at some point, suffered in the ring, which was obvious to fans watching the product.
Wow.
Yeah, I was like, I remember him as having a lazy eye, so that's why I was like...
I feel like it's just gotten tremendously worse.
It probably has gotten worse, but...
I saw him at Kansas City International Airport one night.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Nice. It was long... I remember texting or calling you guys.
There's a video of him recently. He was like with Sexy Red, the artist. Like just in her car, like she's like rapping, she's singing "Sexy Boy," his theme song. And
I saw that too.
She pans over, and Shawn Michaels is in the seat next to her, and it's like, what the fuck? Why are you two hanging out?
But the thing is a lot of these people, like, that's why Ric Flair has always had an invitation.
Yeah,
to the cookout.
Yeah, he's the influence on hip hop culture is really interesting,
and that's why Ric Flair might deserve a top. I mean, because.
Ric Flair,
I'm having a hard time keeping these gators.
Yeah.
I mean, like, he talks about having the gators on his feet, having a hard time keeping these gators down, and
the drip,
and jet flying, limousine riding, wheeling dealing, kiss stealing.
Yeah, he was hard.
Yeah.
And so, like, that's I loved me some Shawn Michaels. So one more time, 5-1. What was your top 5?
That's a good question.
Good. Let me
go
find
back to my list. It was. Oh, Dusty Rhodes 5, Stone Cold Steve Austin 4, Sting 3, The Rock 2, Hulk Hogan 1.
Love it. My 5 was Chris Jericho, 4 Kofi Kingston, 3 Edge, 2 Batista, and 1 Shawn Michaels.
Booyah, baby!
And with that, we can conclude this episode of the Penny Bloom Podcast, our longest one yet.
I know, man. It was a fun
I think it's
time,
because
though.
we didn't have a Sunday night football cutoff.
Yeah,
the Chiefs game's not for another couple hours.
We weren't under the gun.
We're comfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll be back again next week. I'll give you an update on the Bear. You'll give me an update on Shogun. Yeah. We'll see how we're doing there. And we'll probably have we'll obviously have another Divisional Dons. We'll see if Top 5 Dead or Alive is back next week. Maybe we'll have something new. probably a safe bet that we'll do Top 5 Dead or Alive again.
Who knows? You never know.
You never know. You never know.
Never know.
But like I said at the top of the episode, I teased that I saw Megalopolis, and I'm going to be doing a Francis Ford Coppola ranking on Friday for the Penny Bloom Dispatch. You can come on back for that. We've got a lot going on. Let's see. Our show, The Cinementalists, kicks off in a short time now. It's October 11th. So just a couple weeks now. And I'm very, very excited for that. That's one that that's a project I'm very, very happy with. We're starting with a couple of live commentaries for the Star Wars movies, which is always good.
Nice.
But yeah, and leave a 5-star rate and review wherever you might be listening, and download the episode. That would be greatly appreciated. September is looking like it is our best month of 2024.
Hey-o!
Which is huge. It's huge. Shout out to you, Father, for bringing in a new demographic for us.
The old heads out here fucking showing up.
There
Showing up for your boy.
But yeah.
And hey, we should have announced this at the beginning. We got a new mic this week.
Oh, yeah.
We were wrong when we thought it was fixed last week, so this week it really is.
Now it's real good.
Yeah, we all enjoyed it. Fuck yeah.
Yeah, but actually fixed.
I've invested money in this now.
Now we're in it.
Yeah.
Now we're in it. And you can help support the podcast financially by going to patreon.com/PennyBloomPod for $1.50 a month. It's very helpful because all that money goes back into making sure I can put the podcast on. Costs me money, and I don't make any off of it unless it's over there. So you can do that. That'd be helpful.
That'd be really cool.
Thank you. But yeah.
Pay that man his money.
Oh, what? Never mind. With that, I was Colton Robertson. I was joined by my father, Justin Robertson. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, love you, buddy.
Love you, too. And remember, peace, love, and bloom. Go watch some fucking Monday Night Raw. How about it?
Hell yeah.
Monday Night Raw time tomorrow night. Let's do it.
Oh, my God.
Oh, my God.